We're here today to talk about a very familiar paradigm. It's the absolute most certain way to ruin a relationship before it ever starts. We have a little checklist for you that I think you'll find, at the very least, you'll find it familiar, if not fascinating. And so we're going to actually teach you in this 6-step program how to ruin a relationship before it ever starts.
Yeah.
And so the critical and most important number one thing that you need to do to ruin a relationship before it ever starts is to trade your truth for the promise of connection, and just try to tell the other person whatever you think they need to hear in order to want to continue to engage with you, whether it's really authentically true or not. Robert, what's step 2?
Well, I want to say that the key to step 1 is to make up really good stories and make sure that you're absolutely sure what that person wants without actually ever asking them what they actually want.
Yeah.
That's really the key to nailing step 1. Step 2 in this system of how to ruin a relationship before it ever even starts is to keep doing that. You don't do it just once. Like, you're never going to succeed if you only do it once and then give up. Repetition is the key here. Yeah.
That's right.
So you got to continue giving up your truth time and time again. You got to continue not saying the really honest, true, vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to continue to avoid conflict at all costs, which goes to number 3, which is make sure that you commit to doing things that you don't actually want to do.
Yeah.
Make sure you commit to doing things like don't create conflict in your relationship by being honest about what you're really up for and what you're not. But commit to doing things that you don't really want to do and then harbor resentment about it later.
Yeah, this is really important when it comes to things like relationship configuration. If you want open relationship or monogamous relationship, it's super important when it comes to things like self-care and taking time away. Like, you make sure that you don't give yourself time to take care of yourself when you need it. Yeah.
Don't take space for sure when you need it. Step 4?
Yeah, step 4 is do it alone. I mean, seriously, if you're going to really master this system, you need to not get support from anybody else. You need to commit to doing it all by yourself and not sharing your struggles or sharing your challenges with anybody else.
Yeah. And if you really want to up level this step, what you need to do is to make your significant other, your partner, your therapist. Make sure that they're the only emotional support that you have in your life. And that they're the only ones who you bring your like difficulties and challenges to, but not all of them, right? Not the ones that have to do with them, because then you might make them uncomfortable. So set up a really complex relationship with your significant other, the person you're dating, and make sure they're the only emotional support you have.
Yeah. Do that and you are good to go. Step number 6, blame them. Step number 5, yes. Blame them when your needs are not getting met. So at some point, after you continue forfeiting your truth and you keep doing it over and over again over time, and you keep doing things that you don't want, you don't get support around any of this, you're going to get resentful. And the natural next step to succeeding at the system is to start blaming your partner and pretend like it's actually them who's doing something to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. But don't actually talk to them about it. Like, just stew in that resentment. Really, just like talk to your friends about how fucked up they are, but don't have a direct conversation about the things you're frustrated about with them. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And then step 6 is kind of a no-brainer. You keep doing this and letting the tension build until your relationship explodes, until you explode, until you're so frustrated and angry that the littlest potential conflict becomes like a completely inflammatory and insoluble argument, is really what you need to do.
Yeah, so we've worked with hundreds of guys, teaching them the system, helping them succeed at destroying their relationships.
Yep.
And this is a proven system. We've experienced it ourselves in our own lives, seen lots of other guys do this. So,
and let's just jump through the 6 steps again really quickly. So step 1, trade your truth for a semblance of connection. Step 2, keep avoiding the difficult conversations and keep avoiding conflict. Step 3, commit to doing things in the relationship that you don't actually want to do. Step 4, do it alone. Don't get help. Step 5, blame the other person when your needs aren't getting met. And then step 6 is just bottle that all up as long as you possibly can until things explode.
Yeah. And so I'd love to get specific here for a minute. Let's talk about a couple different scenarios, because most of the guys we work with are in one of two camps. They're either dating, they want to date around, or they're in partnership, or they want to be in partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the dating realm, what's the guy who's just dating around, wants to experience different connections with women, how might this look?
Well, look, either way, it comes down to knowing your terms, right? It comes down to knowing what your own terms are as a man, what's important to you, how you self-care, how you take care of yourself, what your values are, what your vision is for a relationship, the kind of relationship that you want. So if you're a guy who is wanting to, who's really wanting to explore, who's wanting to have fun, who's wanting to connect with different kinds of all kinds of different women, then don't go into the dating scene pretending to be looking for a committed relationship, or pretending, if you want to be poly, don't fucking pretend to be monogamous, right? And don't, a lot of guys will go into the dating situation thinking they have to like put on the costume of like the guy who wants a committed relationship, or else women won't give them the time of day. And that kind of dishonesty is really, really toxic to any connection. And I promise you actually don't need to do that, because there are a lot of women who really like want, number one, every woman wants honesty. Every woman wants radical honesty up front. And the sooner you qualify somebody, the sooner you figure out whether your maps really match up or not, the better. And there are a lot, I promise you, whatever you're into, there is somebody out there who's into that too. And if you really hold that frequency and own it, then you're going to find them. If you're hiding from yourself around that, then they're going to be hiding from you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the guys who are looking for a committed relationship?
Yeah, committed relationship guy. This, for a guy who's just getting into relationships, some of the ways that I've seen this play out are, well, I spoke to them a little bit earlier, things like self-care, taking time for yourself, whether that means to be working on your purpose, whatever that is. It could be, I have a client right now who's fired up about Krav Maga, about martial arts. He's really committed to excelling at his job. He's really committed to developing strong friend groups for himself outside of his partnership. And he hasn't always been good at doing this stuff in the past, at holding these kinds of boundaries. Even something as simple as saying, hey, I need 30 minutes of time per day just to be still, to be in meditation. Even if it's in the same room as you, I need 30 minutes where we can just be quiet. And he has not asked for that stuff in the past. And as a result, he has gotten his needs met. It's built up tension and resentment, and things just escalated from there.
As they do again and again. Yep. When we're not claiming what's true for us.
Yep.
Right. And, I also see a lot of guys in relationship who say yes to things that they don't want, or don't give feedback. Right. Here's another big way that we all ruin relationships, is the other person does something that annoys me, or that makes me like question their values, or question whether we're sort of in alignment around something. And instead of saying, hey, I noticed the other day when you said like, I would totally fuck Donald Trump, that I had a bit of a recoil, and I wanted to follow up with you about what that means to you. Right. So it's like saying the things that are frustrating to you and getting that tension released, instead of just putting it in the tension basket and letting that tension grow and grow and grow. Like, it's okay to give people feedback and tell them what you don't like about them. In fact, relationships where that doesn't exist do not survive, period.
Yeah.
Right? That's intimacy.
Yeah. So in our Authentic Dating Secrets training, the 11-week virtual training, one of the things that's been a huge groundbreaking insight for a lot of guys who have done this work with us is what Joshua spoke to earlier. It's to know your terms. This means entering into a relationship from moment one. This means before you even approach a woman for the first time, is get clear on who you are, what do you want, what are you up to in your life, what are your non-negotiables. And this isn't about being a dick. This is about being honest and not pretending like you can just walk into some relationship and like start in the coaching that I used to do with my former girlfriend and business partner, Natalie, she called it gumbying. People gumby themselves around another person and contort and do that in the hopes that they'll get love and approval back And the gumbying happens when we're not clear on who we are, what we want, what our purpose is, what our life is about. It's about stepping into a relationship saying, here's what I want. Here's what I'm up to in my life. Here's what I need in relationship, and putting it out on the table. The analogy that I like to use actually is comparing maps. It's like, I'm going to put my map and my chart out on the table. I'm going to create the opportunity for you to put your map and your chart out on the table. And we can just, it's not about being a dick. We're just going to have an honest conversation about where we're at, and does moving forward in this way continue to make sense. And if there is a lot of alignment, you know, we can figure out what that wants to look like. But if there's massive misalignments, we can just make the choice from the start to not even enter into that space together.
Right. And what I want to say is that that your current map and your current terms are not set in stone for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right. You can, these terms are going to shift. I promise you, between you being a sort of single dude bachelor, and you like finding somebody you really want to do the long-term thing with, a lot is going to change and evolve in you.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep updating your terms and your principles, but there are certain core terms that cannot change, certain core ways that you take care of yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't go in really clear about the kind of relationship that you're up for, where you're at in your life, then it's really, you're setting yourself up for disaster, and you're setting the other person up for disaster.
Yeah.
And really what we're talking about is this form of commerce where I trade in, I compromise myself, I purchase a semblance of connection by compromising something about myself. And compromise is not a recipe for a successful relationship. Shifting, when we have an authentic shift from one position to another, and we see like the beautiful needs that are going to get met by taking this other position, that's what we want in a relationship. But we want to hold our differentiated sort of selves and be clear about who we are and what we want in order to be able to collaborate effectively and successfully in relationship.
I want to qualify what you said just a little bit. Compromise is important sometimes, but we can be clear about how we're doing it and why we're doing it. But like giving up on our truth and pretending like it's not there, and avoiding the conversations about our truths, that's the kind of compromise that will never work.
Yeah, and we can do another video on compromise, because in terms of the way I define compromise is never a recipe for doing a relationship. Yeah. Literally any structure that compromises has a lack of integrity and is likely to fall. Like we have to look at what language is pointing us to. So yeah. So some of I want to talk just to give a high level of the ways that or some of the areas that you can sit down and get clear about what are my terms. Like some of these areas are around sex. You know, what kind of sex do I want? Do I want monogamy? Do I want polyamory of some sort? You know, just get clear on what I want in my sex life. Yeah. Do I want to be celibate for a certain amount of time? Do I want to have a certain sort of phase of relationship where I don't have sex with somebody, but I just get to really know them? Like, know if this is what your terms are.
Yeah. I have a good guy friend who's been doing that for 2 years, and it's been a crucial part of his journey. Another area is work and purpose. What are you really committed to creating in your life and mastering in terms of your professional career, your larger purpose in life, and the impact that you want to make in the world? And get really clear on that. If you're not clear on it, you're likely going to end up in a relationship that's going to end up distracting you and pulling you away from that. And then the other person's going to get butthurt about it when you want to shift your energy back over to this area that's actually really important to you. Self-care, I talked about.
Go ahead.
And yeah, I mean, self-care is pretty self-explanatory, and I've already touched on it. And there are other areas in your life that might be non-negotiables. Maybe you have a child. Maybe you want children. Areas like these.
Yeah. Super important. And this goes for everybody. Like, know your terms, know what you want going in. Get super clear about that and be aware of when something isn't a match for that.
Yep.
And you know, I want to say, I'd like to go back and actually reverse these steps, right? So if that's the recipe for ruining a relationship before it ever starts, then what's the recipe for building a beautiful relationship from the start? Okay.
Yeah.
So step number 1, speak your truth again and again and again.
Well, that's step 1 and 2 in the same.
Right.
The same go.
Just keep showing up and saying what's true for you. Many of us have a compulsion to blunt our truth if we feel like it's going to make somebody else uncomfortable. And I will say that when it comes to terms, that one of the things that a woman is going to do again and again, many women consciously and unconsciously, is they're going to test your terms. They're going to in one way or another, consciously or unconsciously, kind of check you there and see if they can get you to do what they want you to do. And here's the thing, them getting you to do what they want you to do, if it's against your terms, is a booby prize. Everybody loses when that happens. But a woman will settle for being in control when she can't trust that you are a man who can hold a fucking boundary and set his terms and keep them, right? So don't go for the booby prize. Go for the real thing. Have integrity with your terms. And when they're tested, really, really hold a firm boundary and know how to set those boundaries in your relationship.
Yeah. So you kind of covered steps 1 through 3. That's
totally.
Be honest and clear about your truth and your terms. Keep doing that, and then commit to doing the things that are important to you and that are crucial for you to be doing in your life. Yeah.
And say no to the things that you don't want to do, that you're a no to, right?
Step number 4 is don't do it alone. Get support, get mentorship, get yourself in men's community. Obviously, Joshua and I run the Brotherhood community together with Shuja and Peter. We have Authentic Dating Secrets. And there are so many other spaces out there, resources for support. I could write a whole list of places guys can go to get themselves first, among other men, among other women, in places that are going to allow them to show up more fully, more powerfully, more openly, more lovingly, more empathetically to their relationships.
Boom. And step 5, own your needs, own your experience, own your decisions, own your actions, own your projections, right? Own it. Anytime you find yourself blaming somebody else or projecting stuff onto somebody else, notice it, call it back. How do I feel? What do I need right now? What can I ask for in order to get my needs met? Because at the end of the day, there's only one person who's responsible for getting my needs met. And I won't be doing that alone. I'm going to be doing that collaboratively, especially in partnership. But it's up to me to know how to ask for what I need.
Yeah.
So own that shit. Own it all. Own your mistakes. Own your beautiful things. Own your desires. Own it all.
And the final step, number 6, is to keep doing all of that until the relationship explodes with joy.
Orgasmically.
And connection and passion and intimacy and excitement and beauty.
And step 6 is release tension frequently in the relationship. Right? There are so many ways to release tension. There are withholds that we have. Create a container in your relationship to share the withholds, the things that you kind of don't want to share. They're uncomfortable. Be able to express that thing that's annoying when it's at a level 2 instead of when it gets to a level 10, which is the level of pain most people have to be at before they allow themselves to give that feedback.
And
right?
create some clear agreements and structures around it. It doesn't need to be blurting stuff out all the time. You can sit down and have an intentional conversation about how do we want to manage mutually this stuff when it comes up for us, and what's the process we would like mutually to engage in when it comes up.
And this isn't an invitation to become a complainer. This is an invitation to really be conscious about giving feedback. And at the very least, getting consent by asking, can I give you some feedback? Right? Can I give you some feedback? Yes. Okay, you've got consent. Now share the feedback. Yep. So, and there are other great ways to reduce tension. Touch each other's bodies, co-regulate through massage, make love. Like there's so many ways to co-regulate and reduce tension in the relationship. Just keep doing that.
And again, for me as somebody who's very independent and kind of needs my space, taking some space might be important.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, so those are our 6 steps that we have. We told you how to ruin a relationship before it ever starts. And then we flipped those around and told you exactly how you can keep a relationship alive and healthy and juicy and keep deepening it in a way that's going to be fulfilling for everybody involved.
That's right. And I just want to close by saying that we have this impossible standard in our culture that a relationship is kind of judged for its success by like how long it lasts. And like relationships are supposed to be these like long-term lifetime commitments. And what I want to say is like, be gentle with yourself. Every single relationship is an experiment. We're running an experiment in compatibility and collaboration and connection. And one of my teachers, Justin Sterling, would say often that you have to be able to, in order to be ready for a long-term committed relationship, a true long-term committed relationship, you have to have demonstrated the ability to get into and out of short-term recreational relationships with a sense of grace and integrity, right? And so you may go in thinking it's a long-term relationship, and it turns out to be a short-term recreational relationship, a connection that you're learning from and growing from and enjoying on whatever level. And just give yourself permission to be learning from your relationships, to be experimenting, and to be imperfect as a human being along the way. Yeah. It's just way more fun that way.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for chiming in. Any thoughts, questions, any other topics that you would like to hear us speak about? Any places that we just scratched the surface and you want us to go deeper into? Let us know. We would love your feedback.
Bring it.
We do these things every week, and love to be in collaboration with you. Thanks for being here today.
We'll see you soon.